Hello and welcome back to Game Brigade. My name is Bryan, and today we're going to be covering Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. Stay tuned for that. Okay, Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. If you guys have you been watching my show for a while, you might remember that I said I would never buy this game because I was happy with my Terraforming Mars experience and I didn't see the point in buying it. And after putting it off for a year, the newest Kickstarter just launched for the triple expansion pack for Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, and I figured I would pick it up. Another reason I didn't buy it originally is I didn't want to get the Target version, the non-dual layer player boards. But I was told that Amazon had the collector's edition still in stock, which included the dual layer player boards. So I figured, why not pick it up while I still can. So we're going to dive into this game. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of how the game works, talk about some of the systems, and then we'll get into what I like and what I didn't like, and then some final thoughts at the end of the video. So let's dive right in. Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition is a condensed version of Terraforming Mars, and I was nervous originally that I wasn't going to experience some of the same feelings of Terraforming Mars, but I was actually pleasantly surprised by Ares Expedition. It does give me a Terraforming Mars experience, but in a different shell, in a different environment, which is pretty cool to be able to experience that. So the way this game works, we are going to be playing project cards from our hand, paying whatever cost they are using our mega credits. We will be then also selecting a type of corporation that we're going to be working with, and these corporations usually have different types of abilities or strategies that they are going to play around. So that all sounds just like Terraforming Mars. So where's the difference? Well, the key difference comes from these phase cards. There are 5 phase cards ranging from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and each one will go into a different action of the 5 different phases of the action phase. So in a multiple player game, all players are going to secretly pick one of their 5 chosen phases, and this is going to indicate a phase that they would like to do an action on. Now this is everyone can do an action on that phase when we reveal. So in sequence, we will all reveal our phases. For example, I revealed construction, but let's say the player over here to my side revealed development, and another player revealed research. We would then do phases 1, 2, and 5, skipping 3 and 4 since they were not selected. These phases also are dual layered, where they have not dual layered, but they are double sided. Double sided. There's 2 parts of them. You have a top and a bottom. There we go. Not double sided. I don't know. What do you want to say? Top and bottom. You got an ability where every player will activate that ability during that phase, and the players who played the card will get the bonus. That refers to if 2 players played phase 1, both those players would take the bonus as well. Then same thing for all the other abilities, construction, bonus. The caveat to these cards and kind of the interesting play is if I play development, the next turn I can only pick one of the other 4 cards. I cannot play development again. So I would say pick another one. I can then return development back to my hand, and now I'm going to be doing construction. That's kind of the interesting aspect of the game, are the phase cards. And we do this all simultaneously, so play will be pretty simultaneous. The game is won by, just like in Terraforming Mars, raising the temperature to max, raising the oxygen to max, and having all of the ocean tiles flipped up. Once that is completed, the game will end. On our player board here, we have 4 different categories that we will be referencing during the production. We've got our income or mega credits. We've got the amount of cards that we will draw. We have the amount of heat that we're generating. And then we have the amount of plants that we're generating. During the production phase, players will reference this, add their credits over. And then down here, we have steel and titanium reference charts. Unlike Terraforming Mars, we don't produce these types of resources anymore. They're just discounts to the tags that we will play. So let's talk about those tags because they are still very similar as they were in Terraforming Mars. So let's pull up a few here for examples. All the cards, just like in the original Terraforming Mars, have a better, well, I would say Ares Expedition has a better layout in terms of their overall design. These are project cards. You can tell they're project cards because they have a green border. Each card type will have a different color denouncing on the side, indicating if it's an ability card, a one-time card, or a production card. So those are the 3 different types of cards you can expect to find. All of these cards will have the cost in the top. Any prerequisites will be additional right next to it, letting you know what will need to be done to play this card. And then the tags are below it. The tags are important in Terraforming Mars because they are usually playing off of each other. It'll tell you that to play this card, you might need several earth symbols, or you need a titanium symbol. So these tags are super important. And at the bottom of the card will give you whatever ability playing this card will reference, either increasing your production, giving you a one-time bonus, or giving you a static ability and or an action ability during the action step. So those are the cards. The art of these is also pretty incredible. I really like the art, and that's actually a given bonus in terms of the aesthetic, but we can talk about that kind of stuff later. The other type of point scoring we didn't talk about is the plants. In original Terraforming Mars, you have trees that you'd be placing into the main board. Here you have tree tokens. You just select them. They're worth 1 point each once you build a tree, and you'll just keep those next to you for point scoring purposes. So that's basically the system of the game. Players are going to be selecting a phase from the phase tracker, playing a phase, taking whatever actions or abilities that phase allows in the production phase, getting the resources, and then repeating. And play is played simultaneously, so all players are doing this at the same time, eventually flipping over tiles, increasing the oxygen levels, increasing the heat levels, raising their level of the TR track to get points, and then finishing when everything is completed. So let's talk about what I liked, didn't like, and final thoughts. The first thing I want to talk about in terms of what I like about Ares Expedition is it definitely has the Terraforming Mars feel to it. I was very nervous in terms of how would this feel? Am I playing Terraforming Mars? Am I going to get that same experience? But it does give that to you, especially in the beginning where you have to play cards that are setting up the atmosphere and the biosphere, getting everything kind of going, and then eventually getting to construction and power generators. You see this definite arc in terms of the story of the Terraforming Mars experience, which is great. I definitely really enjoyed it. So definitely, if you are looking for a alternative version of Terraforming Mars, if Terraforming Mars is too grand and expansive, Ares Expedition is definitely a good fit for you there. The other aspect is the minimal downtime was very impressive. Because everyone is playing at the same time, we're basically, playing our phase cards, looking around, okay, let's go ahead. Phase 1, everyone does their phase 1. Okay, phase 3, let's go ahead. Everyone does it. The only time I saw downtime is when players would forget what we were doing because they're sitting there looking at their cards, thinking about what they're going to do. But overall, the gameplay aspect, now this is obviously the downtime is unique to player groups, but the actual gameplay aspect was very quick and peppy and very much appreciated. I kind of talked about this earlier, but the action selection in the phases for me was quite refreshing and enjoyable. I really liked the ability to look at my 5 cards and say, okay, what's going to be the best thing for me right now? And what's going to further my goal, knowing what I have in my hand, what project cards I've played out going forward, and also what are my opponents most likely going to pick. You got to think about what your opponents are going to play because you don't really want to select the same things they're going to select because that would be a waste of a phase effectively. But you also want to make sure you are not skipping something you want to do in hopes that they're going to do it, because if they end up doing something else, then you might miss out an entire turn. So I do like that kind of hidden element play in Ares Expedition. The final thing that I really was appreciative of this is when we decided to play this on one of our game nights, it was all basically we had done was organized it. So I didn't know how we were going to play it. We did not, we had to teach it. And effectively, I was super impressed with how easy this game is to pick up and learn. And everyone was able to play it in about 15 minutes. Rule book was very, very well done. Really impressive here on the rule book. So good job, Stronghold Games, on that. And in fact, their reference cards pretty much can outline the gameplay for you. You just need to understand some of the nuances, and that's what the rule book is there for you. So good job in terms of making a game that is easy to pick up, easy to teach, and easy to flow with. So let's talk about some of the things I didn't like. One of the bigger ones in terms of one of the faults I found was that you are going to be building an engine of some sort. This is an engine builder. You're going to be building some sort of system using your project cards, your action cards, as you develop some sort of engine that's going to be working together. Because of that, and the way the phase system works is by the time you reach that mid-game in the arc, you will probably be selecting 2 of the same actions repeatedly, because they are going to be the most beneficial for you. For example, it might be development and then production. I'm going to play production cards and development cards that I need to play, and I'm going to play production cards to get resources so I can play more development cards. Or by the time you've gone there, maybe you've gotten a lot of action cards, and so you might just be doing action and production over and over. I'm going to get money, and then I'm going to do action cards to use all my money to do all the actions to get benefits and do production. And alternatively, this might be a little bit more rare because of the way our players chose their strategy. But you might do the same thing with just action and research. I'm going to draw cards, and then I'm going to do actions. I'm going to draw cards. And I say that because you could discard cards from your hand for 3 MC, which is the mega credits, effectively skipping the production phase if you chose to, because the cards can fulfill your whole economy if you wanted to. So why don't I like that in terms of my thoughts? I wanted it to be a little bit more where players would have to have a little bit more thought in terms of what am I going to select, what's the best for me, what are other people going to do. But as soon as we hit that midpoint, it just seemed like, you know what, this is what my deck wants to do, and I'm just going to do it over and over and over until we reach endgame by blitzing as fast as we can to get as many points as we can on the terraforming track, raising the temperature, raising the oxygen, and flipping ocean tiles. So that was the only thing I didn't really care for in terms of the phases. The other thing I didn't really care for was it seemed like certain strategies might be better than others. And I usually like that. I like in a game where any strategy a player chooses should have a path to victory in some way. But I found that certain strategies would lean more heavily to higher point scoring towards the end of the game, especially cards that put counters on them, such as microbes or plants or animal cards, which are all dictated by the blue action card sets. And so I found that a lot of the blue action cards were a little bit more powerful late game than, say, the green production cards, which are just increasing your production. At some point, if you were doing a production build, and so you're doing green economy cards and then production, you're also benefiting your opponents by giving them the production phase, so they don't ever have to do production, and then they can focus on doing their action phase if they chose to go action. And if you have not done action, if you didn't do any action cards, then you're skipping that entire phase. So they're getting the benefits of the green phase, they're getting the benefits of the 4th phase, the production phase, and then they're getting benefits from their own action phase. So I found that certain strategies like production, if you decide to do a production strategy, really ramps up early game, but then falls off really hard late game. So I would like to have seen a little bit more balancing in terms of that. I did kind of mention this just now, but I guess I can reiterate it a little bit because it was a point that I wanted to bring up. In the game, you have the 5 phases. If you do not get any sort of reward or bonus from an action. So if someone did the action step and you don't have any blue action cards, it is incredibly hard to keep up with everyone else in the competitive space with that. So I think I kind of talked about that, but I wanted to just bring up that in general. So at times you might have to just over saturate yourself in terms of making sure you're not hurting yourself anywhere. Another thing that was incredibly frustrating to play with was this middle board. The focal point of the game, it's super small. It's about the size of the box, of course, obviously, because it's got to fit in the box. But it was small to a point that it doesn't make sense. The oxygen track here, the cube is too big, so sometimes you don't know where it is on the track, and it gets bumped around easily. This should have been set where it was dual layer, just like this, so this cube could easily fit in onto the track. I don't understand why it wasn't. Same thing here on the heat track, too close. The most egregious thing here, though, is obviously this terraforming track. I don't have more player cubes, but if we put some cubes here that are actually smaller than the player cubes, but if we're all trying to move up this track, it's just a mess trying to track where people are at any given time, and a slight bump can also throw off your total terraforming rating. So it's a little upsetting that this is such a detriment, and it actually does affect my enjoyment of the game, having this be so small, and in kind of a downgrade comparatively how I like the rest of the game. The ocean tiles were okay. The benefits that's from the ocean tiles aren't as good as I was hoping for in terms of the rewards, but they're not too bad. The other factor that I want to talk about, and this is more of a disclaimer, is that I have never played Race for the Galaxy, and a lot of people have played Race for the Galaxy. And in fact, several people in our player group who had played Race for the Galaxy while playing this couldn't get over the fact of how close this was to that system. So if you are a player who has played Race for the Galaxy, be aware that I guess this system is incredibly close to that one, and that might affect your enjoyment of this because it feels like you're just playing a reskinned version of that game. This didn't affect me in any way because I have never played that, but overall, I want to make sure people are aware of that because, again, I felt like it was brought up several times in our play session. So what do I think about Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition? Would I recommend it? Overall, I actually do recommend it. I hate that the player middle board is so lame, but overall, I thought this was an enjoyable experience. The only thing that it would steer me away is if I continually keep seeing lopsided point scoring based on certain strategies. That's the only thing that makes me nervous because I want every strategy to have a viability at some point. But if something is continually being the best, then that makes the game at that point unfun because there's obviously a single best path to victory. So I'm excited to see what the expansions bring in terms of changing up the player scoring and changing up that variable, that variability scoring. I think it will be a good benefit. But for now, I do recommend Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. I recommend picking up the dual layered version if you can. Otherwise, the target version would be okay. I just think that this is such a good benefit for the same price that I would try to look for one of these collector's editions if you can. So hopefully this was helpful for you in terms of my final recommendation. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you want to support the channel, make sure you leave a like. Definitely helps. Down below in the description, we also have all our disclosures as well as our Patreon and Discord server. So if you're looking to join the community or looking to support Game Brigade, check out those links down there. Otherwise, I'm going to let this go. Talk to you soon. Bye.